By the way, those of you waking up and hoping to tune in to Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive here on ESPN2, you're out of luck. It's a talk radio program. Go to the radio, ESPN Radio, to listen to it. You're not going to see it today. We're playing poker.
We've been playing poker for over 10.5 hours here at the Penn & Teller Theater, the Rio, in Las Vegas. Lon McCarron along with Norman Chad and Antonio Esfandiari. Joined during the breaks by Kara Scott, new Hall of Famer Daniel Negreanu, Hall of Fame veteran Phil Hellmuth.
By the way, a belated congratulations to Kara, who got married earlier this year, and I'm a little surprised her TV marriage with me didn't really work out. I don't know what makes her think that she can make something work in real life, but we wish her luck.
We do indeed. And you could have followed that wedding on Twitter. There were updates very often from the dance floor, from the cutting of the cake, from all the drinking. That's what happens in Italy during weddings. Van Hof wakes up with a huge hand, a re-raise. Jacobson had opened the pot to $2.25 million with the Queen 7 of Hearts. It is good to be Jorrit Van Hof right now.
I was going to verify before.
And there is the fold. $2.25 million of Jacobson's hard-earned chips go upwards. Oh boy, and you know, he has been the one we've been talking about. Very few wrong moves, never a hair out of place unless he wants it out of place. Right now it is time for the right move of the night, brought to you by Gentleman Jack. And it actually was on Talking.
And that's what you have to do to win at No Limit Hold'em. This is, and the fact that he...
And it was our first knockout. It was a big bluff from Mark Newhouse. And Talking sussed it out, made the call, said, here are my queens. I have you, Mark Newhouse. And that sent Mark Newhouse to the rail in 9th place for the 2nd straight year. That is our right move of the night, brought to you by Gentleman Jack. And Norman, actually, Mike and Mike, I just got the official word. Not going to radio. They'll be on ESPN News.
Oh, okay. That's
so
good.
You're not going to miss it. You can go over there.
Yeah, you like to. Yeah, I like to look at them when I'm listening to them on radio. So if you want to still look at them, the ESPN News, that's fine by me.
Yeah, it's on running right now. So most of the DVRs out there have picture-in-picture, so you can watch the action here while you listen to Mike and Mike. Jacobson with pocket fives. It's the Jack 8 from Van Hof. And open-ended. And the bet. And Jacobson folded the small pocket pair. And I tell you, the right move of the night has been anything that this guy does. Back to 109 million chips plus. And the guys have been streaky, and Van Hof, the last 3 hands, picked up 18.3 million new chips, small ways and big ways, but it adds up so quickly, and particularly short-handed because you're taking chips from your opponents, so that increases, you know, the delta between the two of you, and
$2 million.
It is so hard to play against Van Hof right now. Talking raised with ace-10 on the button. Jacobson folds a small blind, and now Stevenson the big.
Stevenson likes to defend out of the big blind. We've seen him do it with multiple hands tonight. King 3 is probably his worst defense so far as holdings.
Right, and he flops a tray. Stevenson takes the lead, catching bottom pair.
Tonking doesn't look too thrilled to be at the final table of the main event with 4 people left.
Believe me, he is.
Well, he says he doesn't get too rattled when he's short. He's been short many, many times at this main event. He doesn't look like he really gets rattled.
I mean, he has to bet here. If you raise on the button and it comes 5-9-3 and your opponent checks you, you just have to continuation bet. And even though Stevenson has the big hand, it's kind of a tough spot. He's got a call here out of position with bottom pair, but you have to do it. I mean, it's hard to make a pair. It's unlikely your opponent has, an overpair to the flop. He's really not betting a 5, probably not. So there's a reasonable chance that your 3 is probably the best hand. You also have king or a 3 to make a much stronger hand.
8 of clubs. I'm starting to think that it's hard to make a pair of his new clothing line. He keeps saying it all the time.
And I'm starting to think it might not be true because he's always pointing it out when somebody makes a pair, which seems to be like every other flop.
Let's see what happens here on the turn. I'm really interested. I mean, tonking has generally always shut down on the second barrel. It will be very hard for Stevenson to call here on the turn if tonking actually follows through with the second barrel.
Check.
No second barrel. River card is another tray. It just gets better now for Felix.
Bingo.
If he doubted his hand before, no need to now with the river card.
He knows he has the absolute nuts here. His opponent showed weakness on the turn. He rivered a 3. I mean, this is the nuts. Nutter butters.
Hello, I have trips.
That's 5.2.
And talking cannot continue. Ace high.
Even though talking is probably never going to call, I think you should definitely take some time and think about it. You don't want your opponents to think that you're going to fold that easily. You want your opponents to think that you're thinking about calling all the time, because they're less likely to bluff you in future hands. So even though you know you're going to fold, you should at least think about it for 20 seconds.
So, as our 2014 World Series of Poker main event final table telecast continues, presented by Gentleman Jack, Will Tonking down to 20 million. The short stack of these 4. Jacobson and Stevenson both have 35 million plus, and Jorrit van Hoof, the Dutch chip leader, with over 109 million. Will Tonking, cash game specialist online and live from New Jersey, plays some of the biggest cash games you can online and a bigger game live out there. Tonking raises and Hoof folds his big blind, so Tonking gets a few back. Hoof figured he couldn't play 9 deuce. University of South Carolina graduate, business degree. Had to really hit the books hard and score a big number on one of his last tests to get through, and he worked hard at it, surpassed his goal, got the grade he needed, and got his diploma. University of South Carolina, big fan of Gamecocks sports down there. Jacobson now with ace king of clubs and a raise to $2.25 million under the gun, four-handed. Stevenson wants to play, can't get away from having these two meet with king queen.
I love this call here. King queen is a very powerful hand. You have position against your opponent. If you raise and get re-raised, you can't really play the hand anymore. And so, given their stack sizes, I love just flatting here in position.
$2.25 million from each. Norway versus Sweden once again. There's the flop. No paint.
Yeah, it's so gross when you have ace king and it comes 10-6-3. None of your suit. It's just disgusting.
No, you know, it's hard to make a pair.
Don't steal my material, Norman.
I need something.
But look, it's one of those spots where there's 6.6 million out there. You can't just check and give up the pot. You have to bet something.
2 million's the bet.
Stevenson can't just fold this for 2 million. There's just too much money out there. If he calls, his opponent is in a tough spot on the turn. If he had missed the flop, I like calling or raising here.
4 red chips is a call.
If he just made it 5.4 million, his opponent can't proceed without a hand. Oh, wow. Hello.
Queen for Stevenson. Broadway draw for Jacobson.
It's a tough spot for Jacobson. He bet the flop and got called. He doesn't really want to bet again and get called. He also doesn't want to give up 10 million that's sitting out there. I mean, he's got 2 overcards and a gut shot. So, you know, if there's ever been a time to double barrel, this might be it.
2 even stacks jousting 4-handed. The main event final table, and reaching for chips, Jacobson announces 5 million.
I mean, Stevenson hit, you know, gin on the turn. A king or a queen in his mind was gin, so it doesn't really change that much. He's has to call here in position.
But the queen was much better for him.
Yes, he doesn't know that, but yes, absolutely. You know, what's going through his head is, if I call the 5 million and now the river bet is 10 million, what do I do? But again, no version of him is ever going to just fold here.
And there, 5 million from Stevenson. Look at this pot, over 20 million. And Jacobson needs help. The river card is another queen. So trips again for Stevenson.
So lucky for Stevenson, Jacobson doesn't actually put Stevenson on a queen, given that he just called the flop and it came running queens. It's very unlikely that Stevenson has a queen in his hand.
This could be dangerous for Jacobson.
It could be very dangerous for Jacobson, but he also has a hand that has showdown value in case his opponent missed a draw. So there is some justification for checking and hoping your hand is good, picking off a bluff.
There were 2 flush draws out there. They both missed, of course.
So, you know, if Stevenson makes a big bet, it actually looks pretty fishy, because he would make a huge bet with the 10 here. Jacobson doesn't put him on a queen. There's a chance he might hero him with ace high here. It just kind of really depends on what Stevenson bets and the energy that he gives off when he does so.
This is a whole stack. Is that a full 10 million?
Yeah, I mean, this is real fishy.
10.5 million.
Jacobson might talk himself into a call somehow.
He's been very careful tonight.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you, the way the hand played down, it's tough to put Stevenson on a real hand. You know, the only thing he's really representing is queen, a queen in his hand, any variation with a queen, a pocket 6s, pocket 3s. Very unlikely he has pocket 10s. You know, all of their hands are a bluff. Any kind of flush draw. Maybe he floated in with a, you know, like a hand like 7-8 suited. So ace high is often good here. He's getting a pretty good price. He's got to call 10 million to win 30 million. Hence why he's in the tank. This is not a clear fold. Now, this is where it just gets down to reading your opponent and, you know, looking at his pulse and his neck and trying to talk to him. Why isn't he talking to him?
They are a reticent people.
But Jacobson is super good. I mean, he doesn't usually make any mistakes. Calling would be a mistake, but theoretically, I don't think it's a mistake.
He came in to this final table with the most tournament winnings of any of the November 9, and he did not earn those millions by taking this game lightly. He understands it on many, many levels, and that, as you mentioned, is what's taking him so long here. This is a critical moment. This is a huge pot. He could be right. He could have those chips in his stack. He's thinking.
It's the last queen that might cost him this extra 10 million.
Which is, you know, in a big picture thing, when the guy rivers trips, it might be a good card for him and get him more chips. That's what I love about it. And then Stevenson makes that big, what you call fishy bet.
Oh, he might do it.
Of 11.5 million.
He's going to be steamed if he does.
Looking back at the chip counts.
No, Mike and Mike are up on the big screen.
Oh, that's good. Okay. He's been thinking about this for almost 2.5 minutes. This is worthy of going into the tank.
If you compare the amount of draws versus the amount of hands that he could actually have, there's probably more draws that actually missed where ace king is good. And given the price that you're getting, makes it a pretty standard call. But given that it's four-handed at the main event final table and there's so much at stake, you really have to think about it. I think he might talk himself into a call.
For Martin Jacobson's sake, he has to make the right decision here.
Yeah, this is a crucial moment.
And look at this, reaching for chips, chips in hand. Like possession is 9/10 of the call.
By the way, I love that he's taking his time. You know, when you move your chips around, your opponent always, not always, but sometimes tends to do something to give you some information. You absolutely have to do this when you have a big decision. Make your opponent sweat a little bit.
Is he secretly looking at his opponent while he does this?
He's counting his chips to see how many chips he's left with if he calls and is wrong. You know, the pay difference between fourth and third is pretty significant. If he calls and is right, big momentum shifter. And also the other way, if he calls and loses, whew, not so good.
He worked his way into position to give himself a good chance to win this tournament. And now he's at another crossroads here against Felix Stevenson. And he made the call. And Stevenson is going to take this pot. And a wrong decision by Jacobson is really going to cost him. A monster pot to Felix Stevenson. Drops Jacobson down to the short stack of 14.8 million. Stevenson up to 57.3, and Jacobson worked it out. But Felix Stevenson fooled him, flat and simple. A huge pot for the Norwegian. 2014 World Series of Poker is presented by Gentleman Jack Tennessee Whiskey, the Order of Gentlemen. And in part by the World Series of Poker Circuit Tour. Looking for live tournament action in a market near you? Check out the new schedule at WSOP.com. The November Niners took to the zip line here atop the Rio. All of them were all in. Some of them thought about trying to get out of it, but indeed all 9 made the ride from the top of the tower, the Voodoo Lounge, to the Ipanema Tower across the way. And there is our chip leader with 107.5 million, Grit von Hof, who started this table as a chip leader, lost it briefly, but has had a grip on that top spot for most of the way. And we've been playing almost 11 hours now.
Raise 2.2 million.
And the last hand we saw between Stevenson and Jacobson, a crossroads moment for both. Jacobson again back to that short stack, less than 15 big blinds, familiar territory for him tonight.
Von Hof with a raise, 2.2 million with that ace 5. Jacobson down to 14.8 million. Will make the call with Jack 8.
Hello.
Hey, how about a straight?
Holy floppage.
Wow.
Check.
And it was Jack 9 that Tonking had against Jacobson late on day 7 that got Tonking going. So Jack 8, Jacobson flops the straight against Van Hoof.
Actually gives Van Hoof a little life here. He's got the nut flush draw.
Well, Jacobson turns the flush now, but that does give Van Hoof life.
And reason to stick around. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see a bet call.
That's 3.5 million.
That scoreboard up there has been a central focus for all these players as they do move up and down the leaderboard, except for this guy who's been stuck atop the leaderboard.
Van Hoof doesn't really like to call with his draws. However, he is in position. I don't think he's ever going to just give it up here. There's a chance that he might shove here and put his opponent to the test.
There is the call. He would love to see another heart come out.
No, not the king of hearts or the 7 of hearts.
Deuce of spades. Change anything?
Never does.
Not a lot. Given that Van Hoof had check back on the flop, it's very likely that he just checked back a pair, and so Jacobson might put him on just a 1 pair kind of hand. Certainly he doesn't think he has 2 pair.
All in.
All in from Jacobson, 9 million.
I think I would have bet a little bit less, just because Van Hoof gave off a lot of weakness the way he played that hand, and I don't think that Van Hoof is ever going to hero Jacobson, given that Jacobson has never really gotten out of line for his whole tournament stack. So I like betting 3 million more than I do bet 9 million. And Van Hoof is never going to call with ace-high here.
It would be out of character from what we've seen from him.
It's just not going to happen. Very sticky board. But I mean, what's going through his head is Jacobson is never doing this with just a queen, you know. At the minimum, he's got 2 pair. He would do it with a straight. Obviously, he'd do it with a flush. But it's hard to make those hands. But sometimes you have to give your opponent some credit, and he'll end up making the right decision.
Jort Van Hoof.
How much is that exactly?
Jacobson happy to let him know.
This will send me out of my chair if he calls. It'll be completely out of character. He's made all the right decisions so far, and this is just such a hero call.
Exactly.
You know, what is he really putting Jacobson on?
8, 5, 9 million.
He can't have a missed, you know, nut flush draw.
You can't have a miss much of anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a... This is a straight up Superman hero call. But I don't think he's ever going to make it.
And you don't want to give, again, he's never wanted his chips or anybody's chips to go to Jacobson.
No, but you know, it's also good to make your opponent think that you might call with ace-high. You know, they're going to find out about this hand later,
9.
and Jacobson is going to be less likely to bluff him in the future if his opponent is thinking about calling him with ace-high.
Van Hoof thinking about this for 3 minutes now. And with just ace-high.
Sometimes you want to be a hero. hero. Don't do it.
He does fold. He didn't like to fold, but he did fold, and Jacobson will pick up a few more chips, get a little healthier, back to third place, $21.5 million on this merry-go-round of a leaderboard. So another right move for that guy, Jort Van Hof, and that makes him our DraftKings King of the Night, brought to you by DraftKings.com. So many things he has done on this first night of the final table were right, whether it was the bet, whether it was the fold, whether it was the pressure pre-flop. The Dutchman making all the right moves, and that makes him our DraftKings.com King of the Night. And also has built his stack to over 100 million.
Raise 2.2 million.
And he will raise to 2.2 million under the gun four-handed with a suited queen.
Van Hof has had nothing more than an occasional fender bender here tonight, so the engine has kept purring, and he has been in control for quite a while.
Will Tonking now. 27-year-old cash game pro from New Jersey says all in. Well, what does Will have? Will's got pocket deuces.
I love it. He's opened up his game. He's got a pair. Just shove it and pray.
And look at this from Jacobson with pocket tens. He comes back over the top. Van Hof folds, and suddenly we may be three-handed as Will Tonking in severe trouble with all his chips at risk. And Jacobson, if he can hold on, will double up himself.
Look, it didn't work out for Tonking with the deuces, but I think in a four-handed game,
20.15.
you have to do that once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Martin Jacobson feeling very confident with his rail, not so much for Tonking and Team Tonking. Tens against deuces, deuces at risk.
Oh, that's a bad flat.
3 clubs out there. Tonking picks up a flush draw because it's never easy.
All of a sudden, he's 41%. Wow.
How tense can this get? A 6 and some straight and flush draws for Tonking.
3 more outs. A slot machine of outs now for Will Tonking to stay alive. He's still a 2-to-1 underdog to stick around. Tonking needs a club, a tray, or a deuce.
And it is the queen of spades, and that will end the main event for Will Tonking as Martin Jacobson bounces right back, picks up pocket tens against the deuces, and Tonking eliminated in 4th place. He will earn over $2.8 million. He had high hopes, and $2.8 million usually satisfies people's high hopes. But with $10 million up top, Will Tonking goes away disappointed. Even at this late stage of the game, getting knocked out of the main event is a punch to the gut. For Jacobson now, over $45 million, three-handed, still the short stack of the 3. What a main event for Will Tonking, but we are now three-handed coming back to the Penn & Teller Theater in just a moment. Back to Las Vegas. Sun will be coming up pretty soon here on the West Coast. Let's go down to Kara, who is with Will Tonking.
We've lost the final American at our final table. Will Tonking is out in 4th place. Can you talk to me about the emotion of this moment?
I mean, it hasn't hit me yet. Just played as good as I can, and that was the result.
You said to me earlier that you had pretty much everyone from your life was here except for maybe 3 friends in your entire life. So what's it like to be here playing in front of such a crowd?
I mean, it was an awesome experience. It's everything they say it is. It was awesome.
Will we see you here again next year in the main event?
Yeah, of course.
What was the most disappointing thing here about tonight, obviously, aside from going out fourth?
No disappointment. Played as good as I can.
Okay, well, we will see you here in the main event next year. Thank you so much for talking to us out in fourth.
Yeah, a day that started so promising for Will Tonking. He was 7th in chips, made the great call to knock out Mark Newhouse, briefly took the chip lead, but then after that, essentially, he went card dead. He started playing maybe a little too tight, in your opinion, and just nothing went right after he had the chip lead.
Three-handed now, blind still at $500,000 and $1 million with a 150,000 chip ante. And this is when the chips really have to fly.
Not just three-handed, but Phil Hellmuth, please take note.
Thank you.
3 idiots from Northern Europe now playing for the World Championship, and we're going to have a first-time champion ever from either the Netherlands, Sweden, or Norway.
Raise $2.2 million.
So the button is first to act, and the button is Von Hof, and he is happy to raise the $2.2 million, especially with ace-jack.
Absolutely. Three-handed ace-jack on the button is a monster.
Who would have expected this guy still to be around?
Yeah, you know, he's made some really good decisions tonight, and he was also fortunate in key spots where, you know, he 3-bet all in. Nobody ever woke up with a real hand bigger than his. He won a big flip with the 5s. You know, he's ran good. He's played very, very solid tonight. I think he deserves to be here.
Who would think that he'd be the one knocking somebody out late, too?
Nobody.
When we saw him
He never had
8
enough
or 9
chips
minutes.
to knock anybody out.
No, he didn't.
So,
6.2.
Wow, this is an interesting spot.
$6.2 million.
So,
he wants to give Von Hof something to think about.
yeah, I mean, Von Hof has a monster three-handed. Jacobson hasn't really ever got out of line in 3-bet light.
I prefer to have my chips on my left, but
You know, given that Von Hof has the button, not knowing what my opponent has, I'm always going to call with ace-jack when I'm the chip leader on the button, just to see what happens on the flop. At a minimum. I mean, sometimes I might even 4-bet this.
Call.
You don't raise me, I raise you. And Von Hof will call for $4 million more. And pre-flop quickly, we've got a pot approaching 14 million chips. Big stack against the short stack. They all with 7 deuce 5. Ace jack still best for Von Hof.
That's actually a good flop for Jacobson. Given that there's 14 million chips out there, he was the pre-flop aggressor. So I just don't think there's any version of this hand playing out where he checks the flop and gives weak and shows and just gives up. So I think he's almost always going to continuation bet here. And if he does, it's pretty difficult for Von Hof to just call with ace jack.
$4 million. And so what he's representing is that he's got a pocket pair.
Right. That's, you know, that's exactly what he's trying to say. That's the message he's getting across. I raise you pre-flop. I'm betting the flop now of 7-5 deuce. That's definitely not a flop that hits a re-raising hand.
Call.
And I love this call by Von Hof, just because if I'm bluffing, it puts me in a really tight spot here on the turn to double barrel again.
There's a tray of clubs. And Von Hof is thinking, you don't have a pocket pair 2 hands in a row, because it's hard to make a pair.
Right, but even if you do, you know, given that your opponent just called on the flop, you want to be a little bit more careful with it.
Von Hof adds a wheel draw. Sorry,
right,
go ahead.
So if Jacobson had aces, which is what he's representing, I mean, yeah, he could justify betting, but a lot of times he might just check call here to let his opponent bluff the turn. He also doesn't want to bet and get raised with aces. So firing again looks kind of suspicious because he can't really have any of that, given that he 3-bet in pre-flop. So I think a bet here is kind of fishy. Not fishy, but very suspicious. I think some alarms will go off in Von Hof's head, given that he's really good at knowing where his opponents are. But even if that happens, he still has just ace high.
You're at Von Hof.
$9 million.
Our chip leader now hears $9 million ringing in his ears. from Martin Jacobson.
Well, that's deep sea fishy.
Yeah, this is, I mean, you know, it is, but it's still very difficult for Van Hoof to continue. I mean, I don't think he can call here.
This is the correct tournament play from Jacobson.
Yeah, there's so much money out there. You kind of have to fight for it. I think that if Van Hoof, you know, just min raises here, you know, obviously it's the right play because I can see the cards, but unless he thinks Jacobson has what he's representing, he's supposed to raise here. And like I said, if he has what he's representing, there's a chance he might check the turn. So far, I love both players, the way they've played this hand to this stage. I think they've both played it correctly, shown aggression, shown courage.
And the proper thing is to fold here for Van Hoof.
I mean, theoretically.
And look at that. Wow. Martin Jacobson showing some poker chops here. And that is a game so far beyond. It's just amazing. And what a pot to win. Coming up later, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. More of this high-level poker action as we crown a World Series of Poker main event champion. They will win $10 million and a very impressive main event bracelet. And it goes without saying, three-handed, the pressure intensifies. That hand embodied three-handed poker.
Big time. I mean, every hand is crucial. You're playing almost every hand. You get the button every 3 hands, and so you can't really be folding buttons three-handed. Time to go up even another notch.
57 million chips now for Jacobson.
Raise 2.25 million.
You heard the man. Jack 8 of diamonds. Stevenson says nope, not this time either. And I do see a change in the face of Van Hoof. He sees concern, and this is what he was worried about all night long, is Martin Jacobson with chips.
Call.
And here's a call from Van Hoof with ace queen.
Ooh, that's a great flop for Jacobson.
Good flop with Jack 8. Open-ended. Ace queen fails to connect.
Similar to the last flop.
2 million.
Ace queen didn't connect. Jacobson last time flopped a gut shot. This time he flops an open ender.
Yeah, this will be just a call. You don't want to check raise here out of position with ace high. Now a queen would be a very interesting card.
But the 6 comes.
So if Van Hoof checks again, Jacobson would probably win with another bet here. But I think Jacobson might check back, given that Van Hoof called out of position. He could easily have a 9 or a 10 in his hand.
There's the check from the Dutch chip leader.
I think Jacobson will probably check this back. I don't know what I'm talking about.
5 million from Jacobson. And he got Van Hoof to lay it down once and gets him to lay it down again.
Deja vu all over again. He outplays the chip leader, second straight hand.
Jacobson is making a move. He has 62 million in chips. He's creeping up on Van Hoof.
And you know, I look at Jacobson, and he looks as fresh as he did from hand number 1.
He does.
These guys are primed for this. They're ready for this. Do you see any fatigue in any of the guys? It's tough to see on Jacobson.
No, I mean, definitely not on Jacobson or Van Hoof.
Stevenson, it's tough to see
Stevenson, I can't even see.
Right.
You know, he's there, but I can't really see him between the shades and the hat and the sunglasses. But the other two look just as poised and ready to go as ever.
Call.
Van Hoof throwing chips in with a little anger, it seemed. Little attitude
there. He seemed a little irritated there.
He just calls from a small blind with Jack 8, and Jacobson will check his option with 9-4. And there is a 4. And so everything that was going right for Van Hoff earlier, hitting flops, now seems to be happening for Jacobson, who catches middle pair here. Van Hoff checks.
Jacobson looking for the old-fashioned hat trick
1.5 million
against Van Hoff. He didn't have to outplay him this time. This time he outflopped him, and that's 3 straight pots he has won against the chip leader.
Up to 63.6 million is Jacobson. Van Hoff down to 81.5 million. And our crew of dealers, Heather Alcorn, Ethan May, Miranda Miller, Jennifer Palmer, and Andy Tillman, the 2014 World Series of Poker Dealer of the Year. We thank them all. They come from everywhere you can think to play sometimes, and mostly deal the World Series of Poker. And
well, Andy Tillman actually lives in Sweden now, but he was born, I believe, in Nebraska, another Cornhusker.
And the dealers, you know, they're there for the long hours, and they have to stay on top of their game. They do have others rotating in. Poker players, of course, do not have anybody else to rotate in for them. But we thank all the dealers, hundreds who were here during the summertime World Series of Poker Festival, and the best of the best are here dealing our final table.
Raised to $3 million. And
they will be back tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, to deal a championship hand to one of these 3 players when $10 million is handed out. Jacobson is on a roll. He cannot lose.
I always tell the dealers that I play with in Los Angeles that they've got one of the toughest jobs in America, because the Southern California poker contingent can be quite rough and tumble and blame things on dealers and throw cards and do bad stuff. Here in Las Vegas, we're seeing 3 of the classier guys here at this table. They would never do anything like that to a dealer. And as you mentioned, Lon, this is just a great crew of dealers here at the main event, and the best of the best here at the final table.
That goes for the players as well. These final 3 have earned their way to become part of this trio. One of them to be the world champion, represent their nation for the first time at the pinnacle of the poker world. Jacobson picking up cards now. Ace queen, and he'll take that pot. And these two looking for a way to throw a roadblock in front of the Swede. And you know, mentally it is as they're sitting physically. It's those two against Jacobson right now. Even though Van Hoff has the chip lead, it does not feel like he has a grip on this table as he did earlier.
Interesting enough, the stereotype about the Scandinavian players always is they're super aggro.
2.25.
But actually, Felix Stevenson and Martin Jacobson quite measured and disciplined, going against that stereotype.
Doyle said it first, I think, in Super System, is, you know, play your rush, play the hand right after the hand you win. Who knows, you know, sometimes it just happens that way. And Jacobson certainly having a nice rush here to run his chip stack up.
I love the way he shifted gears. You know, as soon as he got chips, he started putting them to work.
Jacobson as the action. You hear Jorrit Van Hoff talking to his rail in the background.
Bet 2.5.
King high best here, and Stevenson. I'm sorry. That was a Stevenson bet, right? Yeah, the graphic is wrong. So it was Stevenson with the bet in the pot, right?
Yeah, I think Stevenson bet and Jacobson folded.
Yeah,
so okay, yeah, the graphic was wrong. So it was Stevenson with the bet. There it is, and Jacobson with the fold. So Norway enters the fray once again. Stevenson with 56.5 million. Jacobson, $64.3 million. Van Hoof, $79.6 million. This is one tight Northern European race.
It's anyone's game at this point. It really is.
Norman told us that a long, long time ago.
I didn't believe him, but he was right.
This isn't my first rodeo.
Van Hoof folds.
Call.
Jacobson calls from the small blind with 10-8. Do you like the dynamic of three-handed play?
Yeah, it's super fun. It's a lot of action. You can't ever fold. And, you know, anytime that you're forced to play hands, I think just makes for better poker. That's why I believe every poker game in the world should have an ante from every player.
Stevenson commits some chips. A tray, a couple of kings, a couple of diamonds, a 4. 10 high is best here. Jacobson with the 10 high.
Bet's $1 million.
That's the minimum bet, and that's all it takes to get Stevenson to fold. So Martin Jacobson, who's, you know, we hear a lot of stories about parents who don't like their kids who play poker and bemoan the fact they dropped out of school. But Jacobson's dad actually gave him a poker book when Jacobson was 18. He studied the book at school and while he was in the military, and he found a love for the game, and it has served him well so far.
Wise decision, Mr. Father Jacobson.
Right.
Wise decision.
Raise 2.25.
From the button, a raise from Jacobson. And just the way he puts his chips in and glares at the other two tells me, you know, the confidence he is feeling and the role that he is on and the cards that he's getting. Ace 9 of hearts. And he puts him out there and stares and says, you know, here they are. Come and outplay me if you can. Lately, nobody has been able to.
He's really approaching Van Hoof. He has 67 million. Van Hoof has 78 million. He's just one pot away from taking the chip lead, which would be incredible given how short he was all night.
Oh, man, he was down to single digits. And now, as you said, threatening the chip leader, 67.4 million. And with every pot he wins, it seems the taller he gets, the more confident and fresher he looks.
And before this final table, actually, Martin Jacobson was never all in for his tournament life at the main event.
2.25.
A raise from Stevenson on the button. Button first to act three-handed.
Van Hoof has been kind of quiet the last few rounds. He's been just kind of giving it up and not getting out of line.
$6 million.
Re-raise.
It almost seems like he's just knows when Stevenson is weak. He's super good at reading him.
Family pot?
I mean, we're never going to see a call from Jacobson. But this is one of those spots where if you think, you know, the button is opening with any two cards, right? So the chances of him having a hand are small, but it's possible. Van Hoof could be 3-betting light, which he's done numerous times. If you put in the 4th bet here and you're Jacobson, it's very hard for your opponents to continue. Now, of course, if you do it and they have a big hand, not so good. But something to consider. It's what we call the cold 4-bet. I'm sure Norman uses that all the time.
The term or the action?
The action.
Oh.
Well, I'll say this. If I'm Felix Stevenson, I'm tired of having Van Hoof to my left for half a day.
Right, and so at some point you have to take a stand. You know, I'm not saying you should take it now, but you can't just keep folding to your opponent 3-betting you all the time. He's done it to him numerous times tonight. At some point you have to put in the 4th bet and say, you know what? I'm the boss.
Here you go.
I love it. I love it.
Re-raise to 13.
I've had enough, Mr. Chip Leader.
Yeah, it's very tough for Van Hoof to call here. You don't want to call out of position with King Jack offsuit for a big raise.
But if he has picked up something on Stevenson, as you suspected, now would be a good time to see it.
If he really has a tell on him, then you have to go with it and pop it again. But it's pretty tough to put in the 5th raise here, especially when you're chip leader, there's 3 people left. If you're wrong, you're no longer the chip leader. Not only that, but you're probably the shortest stack.
3 big stacks, though. These are 3 significant stacks. Stevenson has plenty behind that could hurt Von Hof if they do get into that situation.
All in.
Wow. Wow.
Nice.
Wow. Look at that.
Heart.
Very, very nice.
Jort Von Hof is back.
I mean, that was beautiful. I mean, he clearly has something on Stevenson, and he's not afraid to go with it. And his one hair is back.
Well, if Von Hof had folded there to that 4-bet, these 3 stacks would have been very, very close. But instead, he finds the heart to push all in, and he's reestablished control.
Wow, that was incredible. 5th bet, all in with King Jack off.
Coming up on hand number 236 of this final table. And we'll have more for you tonight.
Raised to 2.2.
They have not definitively decided how late they're going to play. The thought ahead of time was when we get down to heads up or 3-handed. So they still have the option at this point to halt play, come back 3-handed. And no matter when they do stop play, we will be back at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN to bring you the crowning of a new world champion. Von Hof with a raise, a call from Stevenson with ace-10. Von Hof with 5-4 offsuit, and then there's a 5 and a 4.
That's actually a pretty good flop for Von Hof. He's flopped middle pair, also a straight draw.
Right, and an ace top pair for Stevenson, which is the best hand at the moment. He checks.
Given there's not a lot of hands that Stevenson can check raise with, I think you almost always want to bet the flop. You want to create a bigger pot just in case you happen to get there. If your opponent has you beat, you can now win a much bigger pot if you get there on the turn. And a lot of times your opponent will just fold hands like King Jack, King Queen, where you don't want to give up a free card. It's really hard for Stevenson to check raise here. The only thing he's really representing with a check raise is, you know, ace deuce, ace 4, or a set of deuces or a set of 4s. So it's much more likely that we're going to see a check call.
Call.
Von Hof looking at the leaderboard. Jack of diamonds on the turn.
Check.
Another check from Stevenson.
Yeah, I think at this point Von Hof has to be worried that Stevenson could have an ace in his hand. I think he's probably going to check back here, given that he has 3rd pair, and just pray for a 3, 5, or a 4.
Poker involves a lot more praying than I first imagined when I got into the game.
I pray every hand.
Check.
He does check back.
So now Stevenson really likes his hand.
Another deuce.
When your opponent checks back on the turn, ace-10 is almost always the nuts there. So Stevenson might fire and make it look like he missed a flush draw.
Von Hof left with a busted straight draw, pair of 4s, which is no good to the aces of Stevenson.
I definitely don't like checking here. Given that my opponent checked back on the turn, I always want to fire the river here. Maybe he heroes me. He could have also caught a jack on the turn and checked back, so you have to value bet your ace here.
Bets 4.75.
$4.75 million to Von Hof. He has been very strong in figuring out when he's got the second best hand throughout this night and morning. He's made a lot of good decisions against Stevenson.
Call.
There's the call, and Stevenson will take it with the ace. So Van Hof with a misstep there against the Norwegian pro.
4.75.
Well, I'm surprised to see that. I mean, he's made all the right decisions so far tonight. I mean, sometimes you have to make a bad decision, but
4.57.
Well, you know, he had the chips. He knows he's not going to be perfect. You know, you can't play perfect throughout the tournament. And you're going to make a decision like that. You know, maybe there was some more to it, that he have to confirm something he saw, or, I mean, you never want to hand off chips, but he had a chance to win that pot and put a hurt on Stevenson. So we do continue three-handed here at the Penn and Teller Theater. Quite an eventful main event final table so far. Lon McCarron with Norman Chad, Antonio Esfandiari. At some point, play will conclude tonight, and then we'll, as mentioned, finish off, hand out a World Championship bracelet Tuesday night, beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
I think this is Tuesday night already.
Oh, I think you're right. Later tonight. Yeah, you're right. It's Tuesday and it's night, so I think you're correct. We are on a 30-minute delay. Hope you're enjoying our new brand of coverage with the cards up. Every time a player enters a pot, Jacobson, you saw King 10 as soon as he put the chips in the middle, and that's good enough to take that pot. And we started with 9 November Niners. Mark Newhouse, the first one out improbably. It was a heartbreaking moment for Newhouse, who went out in 9th last year. All the players in the USA have been eliminated. And we are left with Jacobson, Stevenson, Van Hof. And you're left with these three guys, too. Sorry about that, but hope you're enjoying the coverage.
When we started nine-handed,
2.25.
none of these three players had a beard.
You've been waiting for that. Stevenson with the raise and take it from the button.
Let me tell you why I like Norway, Lon.
Tell me.
Norway has universal health care. All we have in the U.S. is a lot of really good doctor shows on TV. Norway has had 2 female prime ministers. I don't think we've even had one yet on TV. On the other hand, on the downside, Norway is a constitutional monarchy. I'm not big on constitutional monarchies. They've got a king. Frankly, in the U.S., a king doesn't survive talk radio and Twitter. So it's a good thing we don't have a constitutional monarchy.
Usually you're 100% right. And it's rare I get the opportunity to correct you. And this is a very minor detail, but the Jack Bauer Kiefer Sutherland Series 24 had a female president in the show.
Oh, so I'm wrong about
They
that.
had an African-American president before Obama became president, and now they had a female president of the show with, of course, Hillary.
Okay. But not a female prime minister.
Well, we don't have a prime minister in the U.S. How can we have that? 7 flops for Stevenson.
Check.
I know I should have watched 24. Actually, this main event, I believe, is 24, a reality show.
Yeah, exactly. It could be. Stevenson checked his
Bet 3.2.
middle pair with ace high. Van Hof bets 3.2 million. That graphic is incorrect. It should be switched to Van Hof with the bet.
You know, when you play those hands, 6, 7 small cards like that out of the big blind, and you flop a pair, as we've discussed previously tonight, you almost always have to call. Just see what happens. You could have the best hand. You probably have the best hand, and
Call.
you might improve.
And he does have the best hand.
But it gets tricky when another overcard comes. Or a 9 of diamonds.
Neither player with the diamond. Stevenson checks once again. Von Hof with another opportunity here.
It's a pretty tough card to double barrel. However, if your opponent has just a one pair hand, a jack or a 7, it puts a lot of pressure on him. If you don't think he has a flush, you kind of have to barrel again. There's almost 12 million chips out there.
7.
Bet 7 million.
Barrel away.
And now Stevenson will probably be done with the hand. He can't call 7 million out of position here. I mean, he can, but it's pretty risky. He definitely can't raise. I think he just has to give up the hand.
Yeah, you are right. Von Hof using the power of the bigger stack. And so Stevenson now drops back a little further. 47.4 million. Von Hof up to 87.3 million. And the Dutch crowd trying to muster a cheer for their chip leader, who has 43.6% of the chips in play.
Started day 7 with 5 million, ended day 7 with 38 million. Today got up to 109 million, I believe, and is still in control of this table right now with 87 million.
But two very dangerous players in wing position against Von Hof. Jacobsen folded.
This must be the least banter we've ever had at the main event final table.
It is intense. I mean, it really is intense. They have big stacks and big money at play. And
do you remember Heads Up?
Raised to 3 million.
Pius Hines versus Martin Stashko was not exactly
it wasn't a talk show
material. But for the whole final table, you might be right for the last few years.
And they're all nice guys. They're all friendly guys and know each other pretty well. And it seems like every November Niner group gets to know each other because they're forced into media situations, forced to get together for viewing sessions or zip line shoots or just to get together for publicity photos. And so you interact with the other players a lot more than you would at any other regular bracelet event final table. And they're all young guys and young 30s or young 20s and a lot in common. But once they take their seats, it is all business.
Raised to 2.25.
Stevenson saw it previously with queens. Didn't get any action pre-flop. Raises again with 6-4 off because you can. And he will take that.
And you should.
Yeah.
Stevenson pretty lucky to be in here. If he didn't catch that ace against the pocket jacks, he is adios. All of a sudden, he's playing for millions and millions more.
And again, everyone within striking distance of each other. The chip stacks range top to bottom from 85 to 64 to 50 million.
Stevenson had worn a Chargers hat that he bought at a Chargers game during the main event, but decided that he said he could not deceive the good people of San Diego anymore. He's not a Chargers fan. He's a New York Giants fan. So in this final table, he did not bring his lucky Chargers hat to wear.
Did he say something about liking the Giants?
Yeah, he likes the New York Giants.
Eli Manning, he likes. He's the one that has a poster of Tom Brady crying on his wall.
Call.
Ace 10 for Jacobsen, a raise to 3 million, and Stevenson calls for 2 million more with 7 deuce, but as Daniel used to say, it's suited.
Yeah, Stevenson doesn't like to fold in the big blind, especially when he has position. He's proven that over and over again tonight.
Middle pair for Jacobsen with top kicker.
I can't say I love calling with 7 deuce suited, but I understand the future value of, what happens is it makes my opponent not want to raise me as often. So there is some value moving forward with Jacobsen knowing that Stevenson is defending with 7 deuce suited. But in the long run, you don't really want to do that.
Jacobson will take it with the pair of 10s and the ace, and Stevenson coming up blank on that flop. So Van Hoof still the chip leader. The fans hanging in there. Maybe some of the cheers lagging just a little bit. The Brazilians never had much to cheer about. We expected a lot from them, but Bruno Politano coming in as the short stack with not much to play with tonight, and his chips melted away. A cheer here and there, a cheer for some of the other players from the Brazilians, but it was unfortunate. They never got their party going, their Carnival North in the Rio up here.
No, there's no equivalent for fans as there is at this main event final table. You know, the Daytona 500 doesn't go till 4 o'clock in the morning. Baseball games usually don't go till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Raise 3.2.
You know, we haven't seen much of this at all tonight. A lot of times when the small blind limps, the big blind is almost always checked. This is one of the first times we've seen a limp raise in the big blind, and rightfully so. He's got a pair of 10s.
And he will take it. So players here and there picking up a real hand, hoping for a call. Van Hoof will take the chips when they come. So we have seen he's won them many different ways during the night. And it all adds up. And it's just relentless. Three-handed play is amazing. I mean, it does wear on your stamina. The late hour does, but the cards just keep coming. There's no chance to sit back nine-handed and let a few hands go by. You always have to be on your game. It's mentally taxing. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty draining that, you know, every hand is a decision. Every hand matters. If you want to win this tournament, you basically have to play every hand. And I like Van Hoof's limp with an ace here. Jacobson has a lot of chips. He has position on him. You know, you don't want to get in a spot where you raise and you miss, and now you have to play with just an ace high on the flop. You know, but obviously raising is fine too, but I think limping is a little tricky, and I like it.
Van Hoof actually picked up the 6, Jacobson the 8 on the flop.
Bet
It went check, check, and now with the king, Van Hoof decides to say, I might have a king.
Yeah, Jacobson is calling here for sure. He has third pair with a gut shot straight draw. Potentially the best hand. Position. Amazing pectorials. I mean, he's always calling. Yes, always.
Mm-hmm.
He's never folding.
I'm not quite sure you know the exact definition of the word always.
By the way, he could raise.
Call.
There we go.
Pair of 8s is best right now. It's the queen of clubs on the river, so Jacobson with the best of it.
Now calling with an 8 on the river here is tough. If Van Hoof bets here, Jacobson is in a really tough spot. Van Hoof can't love his hand here. He's got bottom pair. Really just goes down to what does he put Jacobson on.
Bet 5 million.
Almost pot-sized bet.
Yeah, I mean, is he really betting just a king rag that strong? Possibly. The queen is kind of a dangerous card. Jacobson might find a call here. I mean, this is really gets down to getting a read off Van Hoof here. Does he look weak? Does he look strong? You know, some players might even consider turning this into a bluff with the queen on the river, repping 10 jack. Nope.
He does fold. So Jacobson will give up those chips. Von Hof with a nice bet on the queen hit, and he will stack those chips. And it looks like they might be calling play for the evening. And
I gotta go to the bathroom.
with three-handed action here, they are going to call it as we approach the top of the hour. 12 hours of play, I guess, is enough for Jack Effel. He said, I don't want to hurt you guys, and you might as well come back later tonight, get some sleep, and finish it. And so some of the guys want to keep playing. Some might welcome the sleep. But the decision has been made that they will halt play for right now. And as we look at it, we've had 6 eliminations. But Von Hof continues to be the chip leader. Jacobson in second. And Felix in the third. And still plenty of big blinds, plenty of action. The chips are still going to fly three-handed, and they could go in any direction, Antonio.
That's absolutely true. We're going to see some fireworks tomorrow. And
with 3 guys who know each other pretty well, and 3 guys who have been learning more and more about each other, they're going to go back, they're going to study, try to get some sleep.
I'm not the person in charge of bands. So I'm just
the chip leader is still the chip leader, but tomorrow could bring something kind of different to the different dynamic, I guess, after they learn what's been going on, Norman, I would assume.
It'd be interesting to see, if we get to see it, where Von Hof no longer has a chip lead for the first time in a long time. He's had the chip lead for most of these 244 hands. Has not been seriously threatened till now, and I'd just like to see how he would react if he took a big blow and had to sit in second or third position.
Antonio, quickly, got a few seconds. Any surprises for you three-handed so far?
No, I think all 3 of them have played pretty strong, pretty aggressive. They're doing what they need to do. You know, it's anybody's game.
Well, we hope you have enjoyed the action of the final table from the pennant tellers so far. The night began with 9, and one by one they fell until we now have 3 remaining. And we will continue three-handed play later tonight. Yorick Von Hof, Martin Jacobson, Felix Stevenson will come back 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. A champion will be crowned. For Norman Chad, Kara Scott, Antonio Esfandiari, Phil Hellmuth, and Daniel Negreanu, I'm Lon McCarron. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. See you later tonight.